Hello, and welcome to the High School Addition and Subtraction, Algebra 1 Geometry, and Algebra 2 training. Today, our focus will be in Algebra 1 Geometry and Algebra 2 Addition and Subtraction. Each grade level will include TEKS associated with addition and subtraction, academic vocabulary, CRA examples of concrete, representational, and abstract, example questions from STAR, SAT, TSI, and PSAT, as well as a reflection after each grade level. The training will conclude with a discussion post and final course deliverable. Algebra 1 TEKS consisting of addition and subtraction include A10A, add and subtract polynomials of degree 1 and 2. Academic vocabulary is shown below. Please take a moment to review. CRA in Algebra 1 consist of concrete algebra tiles and manipulatives. Representational includes drawing pictures, creating models, charts, or using number lines. And abstract, numbers and symbols as they relate to addition and subtraction problems. Let's take a moment to review this algebra tile example. Simplifying this expression, we can represent each term as an algebra tile. After each algebra tile is represented, we can organize and group algebra tiles to create zero pairs. On the right side, I notice there are two x's that pair with minus 2x and create zero pairs. There is also one positive and negative constant that cancels out. What's left is x squared plus 1. Let's take a moment and review another concrete example using algebra tiles. Pause the video now, and in the Google Classroom course, select number 1, Algebra 1 Concrete, to view a video example. Here we have a representational example. You can draw algebra tiles. First, we represent each term by drawing algebra tiles to represent them. 3x squared plus 2x minus x squared plus 2x plus 2 minus 1x. We look to see if we can identify any zero pairs. X squared, negative x squared, positive 1x, negative 1x, and we are left with 2x squared plus 3x plus 2. Here are abstract examples of simplifying expressions. Below, notice we do not need to use algebra tiles. We only need to abstractly understand the concept of simplifying expressions. If you'd like to watch another abstract example of adding and subtracting polynomials, please pause now and select number 2, Algebra 1 Abstract. When you are done watching the video, please return here. Algebra 1 STAR examples of addition and subtraction are shown below. Please take a moment to review. Here's additional Algebra 1 STAR example. One final Algebra 1 STAR example. Now, let's take a moment to reflect. How can each representation be used in an online learning setting? Pause now and record your answer under number 3, Algebra 1 CRA reflection that is listed in the high school topic. Please return after you have finished with your reflection. Geometry TEKS consisting of addition and subtraction are G3B, G11C, and G11D. G3B focuses on transformations, like translations. G11C is two-dimensional composite figures, and G11D is three-dimensional composite figures. Please take a moment to review the academic vocabulary for geometry. CRA in geometry, concrete models would be objects, 3D models like patty paper or liquids. Coordinate plane number lines. Representational would be pictorial models, diagrams, problem-solving models. Abstract would be using numbers and symbols as they relate to perimeter, surface area, and volume. Let's take a moment to view a concrete example of translating an object along a vector, part of a composition of a transformation. Pause the video now and view number 1, Geometry Concrete Translating, in the Google Classroom. In this representational example of translations, we can see the translation is represented using arrows on the coordinate plane. Pause the video now to view example 2, Geometry Representational. Here we can connect the representational model to the abstract model. Pause now to view example 3, Geometry Abstract. In our final example, we don't have a coordinate plane, yet can still do translations using the abstract model. Pause now to view example 4, Geometry Abstract Translating. Here is a PSAT example of translation. This question could be completed with tracing paper on a graph by physically moving the point to the new image, but an abstract understanding would be the most efficient method during a PSAT. For our next TEK, G11C, dealing with two-dimensional composite area, students could use foam pattern blocks to decompose composite shapes into known shapes. Add the area of each individual shape together to get the area of the composite shape. A representational example of composite area can be shown by placing composite figures over a unit square graph. Notice, it is very easy to identify the area after being placed on a unit square graph of this composite figure. Please pause the video now to view example 5, Geometry Representational of Composite Area. Here we have another representational example. Please take a moment to review, then pause the video to see example 6, Geometry Representational. In our abstract model, what percent of the original area of a circle is left when an inscribed square is removed? Students must fully understand the concept of composite area to be able to solve this problem. A representational model may help. Here is another abstract example in which students must understand the meaning of each dimension within the formulas. Here is a TSI example for two-dimensional composite shapes. Please take a moment to review. For our next TEK, dealing with 3D composite shapes, students can use computer-aided drafting tools or clay models to aid them. Here's a representational example of determining volume of a house. The house can be broken down into two-dimensional shapes known to students. In this example, the house is broken into a rectangular prism and a triangular prism. Once it's broken down into composite shapes, students can then find the area of each shape and add them together. Here's an abstract example in which the figure is already represented. Students must correctly plug the correct values into the correct formulas. Please take a moment to review the PSAT example for G11D, composite three-dimensional shapes. Now let's take a moment to reflect on CRA and geometry. How can each representation be used in an online learning setting? Pause and record your answer under number 7, Geometry CRA Reflection, that is listed under this topic. Algebra 2 TEKs consisting of addition and subtraction are 2a.7a, add, subtract, and multiply complex numbers, and 2a.7f, determine the sum, difference, product, and quotient of rational expressions with integral exponents of degree 1 and degree 2. Please take a moment to review the academic vocabulary for Algebra 2. CRA in Algebra 2 consists of concrete, using manipulatives and algebra tiles. Representational, a number line, creating models, use a problem-solving model. And abstract, formulas, conceptualizing abstract numbers in relation to knowledge of prior learning. In this concrete example, students will physically take a point on a real and imaginary coordinate plane to identify 4 minus 4i. Here, we can use this model to represent 3 plus 5i plus 4 minus 3i to equal 7 plus 2i. An abstract example would not include a representation. Take a moment to review the abstract example below. Here is an SAT example, adding or subtracting complex numbers. For the next TEK 2A.7F, adding and subtracting rational expressions, you can use concrete models to remind students that they need to find common denominators to be able to add and subtract rational expressions, just like fractions. Let's take a moment to review this abstract example. Simplify the following expression. Take a moment and pause. Go to example number 1, Algebra 2 Abstract, to view. Here is a PSAT example. Take a moment to review. Now let's take a moment to review Algebra 2 CRA. How can each representation be used in an online learning setting? Pause now and record your answer under 2, Algebra 2 CRA Reflection, that is listed under this topic. Now it's time to discuss this topic with our peers. Think about the trajectory of addition and subtraction through algebra and geometry. Discuss the changes in addition and subtraction TEKs through high school courses. Regarding the CRA instructional approach, what is your biggest takeaway? Pause now and use the discussion post Jamboard link that is attached to this topic in Google Classroom to respond to the discussion posts. Now it's time for your final course deliverable. Choose one of the following to be your final product to submit for course completion. Take a moment to review the 2 options. Once you have reviewed the options, be sure to save your document using the example at the bottom of this slide.